good morning. We are live from digital address GA099253 in Kokomemle, Accra, on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Lovely, lovely morning to everyone watching the show. The show is JoyNews Interactive, and our social media handles for Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is JoyNews on TV. My name is SELINAM, AMPO. Now, you know, today, a lot of security talks in the media. Security agencies will today meet the leadership of the Christian community to discuss how to enhance security at the various churches in the wake of terrorism threat alerts in the country. Well, ahead of the meeting, some churches, like the Action Chapel, have begun to process and improve on security in their church premises. Well, Komladum visited that church and has more for us.
When you get into the compound of the Action Chapel here on the Spintex Road, you will be subjected to some security checks. So your vehicle will be subjected to some checks at the entrance of a compound. And then when you enter and congregants attempting to enter the chapel, there are various entry points here at the chapel. So as you can see in my shot, there's one here which has some installed detectors. So individuals who pass through these entrances will have to submit themselves to these checks. So the detectors will have to check whether individuals coming in have any metal objects or other foreign objects. Once they are detected, they are isolated and you are asked to stand by, step aside. So these are sorted out. But largely all the entry points, at least 5 of the entry points that I have been to since I came here, have these detectors. They are detecting and they are checking from congregants who are bringing foreign materials into the service. At the moment, there is the midweek service happening inside. Hundreds of people have already gone through these entry points and are in the chapel at the moment worshiping. But then the security officials here are still on high alert. As you can see, all those who are coming in, whether you are young or you are old, you are subjected to these checks here.
I think everybody knows what is happening in the world. The world is a global village. Anything you see happening somewhere should inform you that, these are the trends. And if you watch what happened in other countries, it's enough indication that everybody needs to be you need to be aware of security issues. As recent as just about 2 weeks ago, even last week, you see what's happening in Sri Lanka, you see what is happening in Burkina Faso and other places. But 2 to 3 years back, there was a lot of targeting of American interests. If you remember, hotels even in Kenya, etc., were bombed, etc. So those things prompted us, because we were hosting an international conference with Bishop TDJs coming in from the States. And because of that, you needed to be aware that, any program like that that exposes international community to the general public is something you need to take seriously. So we needed to make sure.
Since the introduction of these systems, what has changed for you?
For me, I feel safer coming to church because as everyone comes in, we go through the metal detectors. Our bags are searched to make sure we don't bring in any sharp objects. So for me, coming to church, I feel it's a safer place for me, and I have no worries considering what is happening now in Africa.
Okay, and of course, for fellowshipping here for 12 years and then...
Well, on the other hand, social media users are reacting to these high alerts on security in churches. Let's hop onto Facebook to find out what people had to say. And Anthony Chim says, I personally don't believe this terrorism threat or whatsoever. I think it's another ploy to create fear and panic in the country. Planners of chaos in my mind. And Togbi Kokuvi says the blood of Jesus can solve it all. No need to arm anyone with security tips. Clifford Keteku also comments, why not call on the Islamic leaders too? Because evidence shows that northern Nigerians were hit both in the mosque and in churches, including marketplaces. So why call on only the Christian leaders alone? Prince Kobe says, I think you should work on your salvation with fear and trembling. If some die for Christ in the hands of terrorists, he or she is far better than those who think living without Christ Jesus is wisdom. And he puts his hashtag, whether Jesus saved me from thirst or not, he's still my Jesus. And Bash says, why not meeting imams too, since both major religious bodies in the country can be victims? There has to be both religious meetings, since terrorism is nowhere near any religion. And Ali Eliso says, this is laudable, but it appears the security service is riding on a single-story narrative as to what constitutes terrorism and who the victims of terrorism are. Is the church the only conceivable victim of terrorism? Is a terror attack on a mosque conceivable or doesn't qualify as terrorism? He goes on and on and on, and he says, oh, we are not our brother's keepers anymore. Well, let's move away from that and let me talk about the Tanzania president. Humble yourself before the Lord and he would lift you up. That is what the Holy Bible says. And true to this quotation, the president of Tanzania, President John Pombe Magufuli, has lived up to these wise words. He was seen on camera collecting church offering as an usher in a rare gesture of humanity. If you haven't seen that video, here it is. Well, let's hop onto Facebook to find out how people were reacting to that particular video. And Fika Morty says, those are some of the characteristics of a true leader. And Solo Boy Kemziata says, good example to the citizens over there, but the first man standing in front made me laugh. Okay. And Emmanuel Japasu says, humble leader, a good example of servanthood, not masterhood. God bless you. And Rita Odole Soa says, humbleness is all that you need to be a great leader. He knows there's someone higher than him. And Rita Odole Soa says, just look at how they are giving the offering with smiles, all because Mr. President. Rishi Lai says, this man is extraordinary for Africa. I personally think he's an example to many African leaders to learn from. And Antha Royal says, wow, servant leadership in display. God bless you, Mr. President. And Julia says, above all, that's humility, but most African leaders want to be served instead of to serve their people. And Shaban M. Adam says, we need 5 of him in Africa. He's a true African and ready to make his people reclaim their lost glory. Well, it's time for us to take a short breather, and we will be back after this. Welcome back from that short break. You're still watching Joy News Interactive with me, SELINAM AMPO. Well, before we jump on to our next topic, let's take you back and give you that full version of President Magufuli taking offering in church. security, indeed. Well, let's talk about the National Identification Authority. Well, they have given us the opportunity to register for the Ghana card. If you're as young as I am, I bet you remember this.
A nation constitutional of a one and one for all. The time is now, on our friends, we are called to get involved. Register with the National Identification Authority. A nation constitutional of a one and one for all. The time is now, on our friends, we are called to get involved.
Register your children who are 6 years and above.
If they're over 15 years, get a national ID card. A nation constitutional of a one and one for all. The time is now, never friends, we are called to get involved.
You are a Ghanaian.
Get your national ID card.
If you're over 15 years,
Get your national ID card.
Ghanaians living abroad.
Get your national ID card.
resident non-Ghanaians, yeah.
Get your national ID card. A nation constitutional of a one and one for all. The time is now, never friends, we are called to get involved.
If you are a Ghanaian or legally resident in Ghana,
If you're over 15 years, get your national ID card. A nation constitutional of a one and one for all. The time is now, never friends, we are called to get involved.
It was a very catchy advertisement from the National Identification Authority. Well, the process is still going on, and some residents in some parts of Accra say they are going through various challenges, and the frustration in their bid to acquire the Ghana card of the National Identification Authority is tiring them out, and most of them are saying they are not motivated to register anymore. Are you one of them? Let's hop onto Facebook to find out why some people have decided to neglect the registration process. And Freedom Kweku says, my center registered just 30 people a day, and even that you have to get to the center by 3 a.m. and the population here is more than 20,000. And Emmanuel Amenuvo says, I registered for the card since November last year at Adringano, East Legon. I was told my fingerprints weren't matching those on the card, hence the need for them to fix it at their head office. Till date, the problem hasn't been resolved. I don't have my card yet. And Geoffrey Jeff Jochi says, no, I spent 2 days and I noticed I was just wasting my time. The rate at which the queue was moving, it could take up to a week. My center is the St. Peter's Catholic Church at Negleshi, Amanfro. And Gold Coast G says, no, and it's not worthy, but it's stressful just to attain a card of identity. It's not well planned, and at over 50 years of age, I don't expect to be in a queue for over 3 days with young ages. And Asare Eric Achampon says, very difficult to get it. I was there 3 times and could not do it. Even the first day, I decided not to go to work so I could get there 7 a.m. and left the place at 4 p.m. The next day, I went and I still couldn't do it. And still, Lord Richie says, does being a citizen get expired? Why does it have an expiry date? Interesting question. And Kweku Dela Amponsan says, 1 week now since I registered, they are always telling me to go and come. And tired, I don't need it again, they should keep it. And Avadu says, I don't want to go and waste my time because I'm doing private work, not government work. If I get sacked, the government won't give me any work to do. Well, on Thursdays, we love to do throwbacks. Do you remember this? Yes, it is a payphone. I'm sure most of us grew up having these around and having to buy a card just to make a phone call. So we hopped onto Facebook to find out what was your favorite memory using the payphone. Let's go down memory lane a little bit on Facebook. And Nana Yao Bank says some of us loved making the free call thing by pressing hash and some number before you enter the number you want to call. And Francisca Bukari says, can you imagine that I was prevented by a lady from making my calls because she was waiting to receive a call from the US? So annoying. Thank God things are not the same anymore. And Mahama Ba Adodadzi says, Indomie generation wouldn't understand this. They won't. And Nana Yao Banks also says, I still have my last card I used in calling the UK. Why? Comments bring back our phone booth. Then Irish Ben also says, I remember some of the men in the area who tapped the cable at night to make international calls without cards. And Franklin Dashu says, I used to pick used cards and place a razor blade on it and insert it into the payphone to call my JHS girlfriend. And Valerian Bragg K says, we will search for used cards after school just to check if there are some units left on it. And Dorothy McCarthy also says, I was chopping love, sir, not knowing my pastor was behind waiting to make a call. I was the topic at Sunday service. Emmanuel Santi says, I remember I used to spend hours by this in the evenings talking to my girlfriend in Takrady. And Kenzie also says, the fact is we still need this, man. The whites we copying still have this and is best for international calls. Why we? Well, it's time for us to wrap up on the show, but before we do, we have to show you our video of the day. And for our video of the day, I say mothers are the best, but sometimes they get distracted watching something. Now, that's all we have for you on today's JoyNews Interactive. Join us tomorrow for more interesting stories. Goodbye. My name is SELINAM, by the way.